Okay. Salutations, Legion of Doom. Welcome to Podcast The Storm, with social awkward outcasts, crazy weirdos, and all around nerds convene to talk and debate all things pop culture. With me, as always, is my co-host, the nerdy occultist, aka the Authenticator, Dalton L. Mortimer.
Good evening, everyone, and happy Mother's Day to anyone who is a mother or anyone who has a mother out there, which should include everyone, but life is not always that kind.
And I am your host, last time lone wannabe, the brainstorm of pop culture. How's everyone doing tonight?
I am doing mostly okay.
Likewise, nothing of notice happened.
Apart from Has-Been Hotel has been living rent-free in my head for like a week now. Consider me
I've
on
also-
Team Radio Demon.
That's not surprising. There's an actual Alistair in demon mythology. Demonology,
Well, I mean Aleister Crowley.
No, there's apparently there is an Alistair who's like Hell's executioner.
You know, I did not know that. I don't know where I don't know where that's written.
Although I have heard that from secondhand sources, so if anyone has done research into that, and
I'm gonna have to double check it. I mean, it seems reasonable. It's just I've never heard of him before. He's not in Nova Scotia. He's not in what is the other one? The pseudo monarchia daemonum.
Lester Kia Solomon.
Don't think he's in that either. He's
Okay,
probably in the. If he's anywhere, he's probably in the Dictionnaire Infernal. So, which I don't have a copy of yet. Yet being the operative word, I will get one soon. It's just I would prefer a nice copy of something, and right now the nice full leather copy of the Dictionnaire Infernal, or the Infernal Dictionary, available on Amazon is like $119, and I have no $119 with which to splurge on the Infernal Dictionary, especially because there's like 50 other books that I would get more use out of, I think, before then. But yeah, I don't think I've heard of a proper demon Alistair, but I could be wrong. And if this is him making a play for
though this is coming from a fandom wiki, so Alistair is a high-ranking archdemon and the chief executioner to the monarch of hell. One of his epithets is the evil genius of the household, meaning that Alistair is the demon that conducts the most heinous, depraved, and unbearably cruel tortures in the pits of hell.
I mean, yeah, that fits. I don't know how radio worked in there, but yeah, it's been several thousand years. Who knows? He might have found a gimmick he likes. And And if the fictional representation of the character Alistair is the actual demon Alistair making a play for relevance, as entities are sometimes want to do, then good for him. I
Mm.
still remain on Team Radio Demon as far as
Uh,
Heston Hotel is concerned. So there.
hello, Dragon Turtle. I'm doing fine. I hope you're doing fine too. Hmm,
I'm
interesting.
doing okay.
Look at
Rarely is it in this day and age that I learned something that I didn't previously already know about mythos and so on. So that's a new one. Now I actually do have a reason to get my hands on the Infernal Dictionary one of these days.
oh
If only I had the spare funds with which to do it.
yeah. Uh, I did start reading some more of Worm. Yes, asking reading checks. I Yeah, I started reading it like last week. I don't think I finished it though because I'm not gonna lie, I've had a busy week to be fully honest.
I stalled again. I haven't really read since we talked about it the last time because I'm kind of dreading everything coming crashing down and being dumb. So I am stalled temporarily in my reading of Pact.
I also I'm a, also I also watched just general thing. I actually did sit down and watch Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem, that movie we talked about like a year ago, I believe. Uh, it's actually not as bad as the trailers looked.
What thing?
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem,
Yeah.
and I fully rescind the negative things I had said when we first reacted to the trailers. Though I will say I don't think those trailers did them any justice.
And I'm not going to watch it purely on the basis of I haven't found a reason to give a damn about the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles since the 2000s show wrapped up and then the movie. So it's gonna have to be a pretty special version of TMNT to get me back on board again.
Well, I'm not saying it's special or anything. I'm just saying like it's better than I think we gave it credit for. But again, I will chalk that up to
Which
poor
is good
marketing.
because I recall not giving much credit to it in the first place. So good for them for being better than we expected. But
Yeah. Um, it was
just saying,
good.
my Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is still very much the early 2000s version,
I will
which may or
say
may
I'm
not
not
be in canon with the movie TMNT that came out in like 2009. I don't know. It seems like it may
I
have been.
so I'm not gonna say. I mean, it's not a perfect movie, but what movie ever is perfect? Um, it's fine. It's good for mostly. I will say it's not preachy, though it does have a message of acceptance and stuff. But
Mm,
it's not bad. Not bad
mm.
really.
I'm sure it's
Anyway,
better than the Michael Bay version, but that bar is not very high.
yeah, that's not really.
Getting repeatedly kicked in the nuts is better than most things produced by Michael Bay. So
So we do have kind of I don't know if it's a packed week, but we got stuff to talk about. This is something
mhm.
don't want to talk about for a while. Well, not for a while, but uh, something that was brought to your attention, right?
Yes.
Right. So this is originally from Forbes.com, written by Paul Tassi, and published April 28th, 2024. Uh, Stellar Blade's new censorship controversy is extremely bizarre. So, full thing, I would not have been aware of Stellar Blade had not all that bullshit come out. So, in a way, it kind of helped with everyone bitching about it.
Yeah, that Streisand effect is a motherfucker. It's almost as though you shouldn't morally enforce your morality fucking everywhere and
Right.
in all things.
Uh, again, I just kind of stopped playing video games in the last, I don't want to say 5, 7 years, just because nothing has really piqued my interest. Like, even this game hasn't really grabbed my attention.
And being as I don't really have a game system with which to play games on, nor a computer with which to PC on,
Nor
um,
are you really able to play games.
yeah, that there's a hand-eye coordination thing with the disability, and
Yeah.
that's a whole nother thing. But I am mostly restricted to phone games, and as such, the two games that I've been playing most recently are Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links, which is fun and got me back into Yu-Gi-Oh! After so many years of not really being into it, and Marvel Strike Force, which is also fun, even though it takes a lot of grinding to get anywhere with it. But it's not insufferable grinding like a lot of phone games are. The last like true and proper game I played was Cuphead. Um,
Anyway.
because Cuphead
Oh,
strummed
wait.
all of my favorite things together and was apparently a really awesome game, so I had to play it.
Actually, okay. I might have fibbed a bit on uh the time frame of me not playing video games, because I did play Cyberpunk 2077 when it first came out in 2020.
Hmm.
Yeah, was
I would
no.
like to play Helldivers if there was a platform on which I could play it, but alas, there does not seem to be. Also,
Mm,
apparently the Coffin of Andy and Lele is also apparently good, and I would like to play it, but I don't think there's a way that I could play it with my current technological restrictions. So,
Uh, anyway, moving on to the actual article.
yeah.
Um, Stellar Blade has been at the center of the culture. Sorry, Stellar Blade has been at the center of a cultural war practically since it was announced, with one side heralding it as the pinnacle of non-woke game design, featuring a scantily clad female lead contrasted with others in the industry questioning her design. Okay, what about the story?
The point there, my dear woke scolds, is when a game prioritizes fun and indulgence over moral wankery, that is preferable to games that prioritize nothing but moral wankery. You see, is the thing that is the, or at least that appears to be the main distinction between the woke side of the culture war and the non-woke side of the culture war. The woke side of the culture war cares only about art as a means to an end, and only wants to see their morality enforced in as many cultural vectors as possible. And the non-woke side, at least primarily, would like for entertainment and art to be entertainment and art for its own sake, and therefore primarily be fun and indulgent, and screw morality as and when it interferes with that. I can't speak to the story, but I can say that I trust most of the people whose opinions I have gotten that say that Stellar Blade is a good game, and that it was, prior to the censorship nonsense, a example of how to do games in defiance of the woke scold nonsense.
Wait, it was censored? I thought it wasn't.
No, the controversy is that it was released in an uncensored form, and then the people behind it, I believe, changed a bunch of shit, and so a large part of its player base are pissed off that it was censored.
Okay.
Yeah,
But now
I'm
that
more inclined to side with the player base on that one because I have yet to ever come across a actual meaningful, reasonable reason to censor damn near anything. barring things that violate like age restrictions and shit. Like I do support there being something equivalent to like the MPAA or a rating system whereby you can sort of say this game is more for this audience or this game is for this audience's maturity level and so on. That I am okay with because that it seems to be just or seems to me to be just um like content advisory so that people know what they're getting, which to me is actually a good thing because it allows customers and consumers to be informed on the products they're purchasing, which is a good thing. I am not in favor in any way of any kind of moral code being enforced from the top down or preventing artistic expression in any kind. No Hays Code on the right wing. No
Hey,
no Comics
Dalton.
Code Authority, etc. And no ESG and DEI bullshit either on the other side.
Okay. So,
Yeah. Moving on.
well, yeah, I was just thinking you're kind of blowing your load there, just because we're only like a paragraph in.
Yeah. Moving forward.
Alright, but now that the game is released, well liked by players and well received by critics, the same group is now saying that in some instances, Stellar Blade's lead is still not scantily clad enough. Namely, they are accusing developer ShiftUp of censoring certain aspects of the game, including specific costumes, and some are blaming PlayStation's.
Because they admitted to it. They're like, this blame is not coming from nowhere. It's because the developers admitted to changing shit and like demanding to be praised for having changed shit. See, this is the thing. You can't claim that this controversy dropped out of the fucking sky from the ether when the people begetting the controversy demand to be praised for having done so. You can't simultaneously have credit for doing a good thing from all of your allies and not take some heat from your enemies for doing a thing they consider to be bad. You can't have all of the smooth and none of the rough, I'm afraid. If you want to take responsibility for this kind of shit, then you must take all of the credit, which means good credit and bad credit.
This is all pretty bizarre, but here's the breakdown of what's going on. A couple of the game's dozens of outfits for Eve were seemingly changed in minor ways from the patch-free disc version of the game to final release. This was not the version reviewers had, as that had been already patched. That was already patched once. But if you forgo all patches, these old costumes can be seen on the disc. Okay.
Okay, the patching, you see, the patching is censorship when all your patching is the quote unquote moral content of the thing. A patch, traditionally, is supposed to be related to a game's functionality, i.e., its gameplay, its coding being up to par, etc. A patch, a patch is not supposed to be there to change the actual content of the game. It's supposed to make it easier to deliver that content. So a patch that focuses only on artistic and moral censorship is not a patch. It is the very definition of censoring.
Moving on.
Moving on. Yes.
Okay.
Sorry.
And here are some photos from a tweet, which I would not have. It's a minor change, I will admit. They're just adding an extra covering to like the hips and covering the boobs, I think. I don't really. I don't.
Which leads us to the question: if the changes were so minor that they wouldn't be noticed otherwise, what was so important about putting them in? Answer: because you don't like when people get fan service or sexual titillation out of games, which is a moral point, not a creative point, not an artistic point, not a functionality or like gameplay based point. You just didn't like it that certain people were getting more enjoyment out of the game than you thought they should have. So you took it away from them. There's the issue. Thank you for at least not putting her in a burqa or something, but if you're gonna only make minor changes anyway, just leave it the fuck alone and let people enjoy themselves. For God's sake, people. Moving on.
Alright, there is one main costume in question, a bunny-style swimsuit which added a tiny bit of lace on the chest and a small amount of coverage in the hips. Another costume had a bit of netting added to the chest area. A couple more may or may not have barely visible differences. These are the main ones repeatedly brought up. From the outside perspective, it's odd players can perseverate on this. Perseverate on this to such a degree, given that those outfits are still enormously revealing, and there are a dozen or two other outfits just as revealing, if not more so, in the same regions where those costumes were censored. But the counterclaim is that any amount of changes like this should be considered censorship and should be protested vehemently.
Yes. Duh. Because and this is an argument that we frequently come back to on this point, don't we? If it's important enough to change, then it's also conversely important enough to leave the fuck alone. If you go out of your way to change something about a setting or a game or a aesthetic choice, then you have to have a reason for it. And if your reason is something 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 morality, then that reason is frankly inadmissible to the discussion. Because if the change is so important that you had to make it, then you shouldn't be surprised when some parts of your fan base say it is important enough that we should defend it and insist that it be left alone. If it's important enough to change, it's important enough to leave alone. That continues to be one of the reoccurring mottos that I have to break out here every now and again when they say, well, it's not important anyway, so why wouldn't you be okay with the changes? Yeah, no, if it's important enough to change, it's important enough to leave alone.
Mm.
Moving on.
Shift Up was asked about this directly at one point. They say outright the final costume we wanted to show you was the one that is seen in the patch, leading many people to point out that this was simply the developer's vision for those outfits, rather than someone pressuring them to change it. There's also no hard evidence Sony had demanded these tiny changes.
Okay, but even if this controversy was a nothing burger, a large swath of your player base is telling you they like the old outfits better. So what you're supposed to do as a creative who actually gives a shit about their fan bases or their customer base's opinions is, if you change something about an outfit or a piece of armor in your game, and a large swath of your fan base goes, we don't like these, we prefer the old designs, bring the old designs back, then what you could do that would basically please everyone and get you out of this censorship accusation of yours is include two different versions of that same outfit, so that the people who want the original version can play the original version because they like the original version better, and the people who like the updated version can play the updated version, and no harm is done to anyone in the process. Because I think what most people are pissed off about, apart from the simple fact of they liked the old designs and they don't like the new designs as much, is all this does is restrict the player's options. What you could do to solve this in both cases is include both versions of the same outfit, and then the people who want the old version can have the old version, the people who want the new version can have the new version, and everybody gets a choice as to what they want, and no one need to be talking about censorship. Anyway, moving on.
All right. One-sided issue is that Shift previously advertised the Stellar Blade would be released uncensored in all regions, though that is merely a statement about them dealing with Japan's often conservative ratings board, that they didn't have to cut anything for them or other regions. Now players are lumping these small costume changes into the censorship idea and accusing the game of falsely advertising itself.
Again, because a large enough swath of your fan base liked the older versions better. And rather than trying to placate both sides by giving both sides the option to play the outfit that they want to play with, or by, endearing yourself to your fan base by bringing the old outfits back. Because I'm sorry, especially when the two are as similar as they are, I don't actually care what the author wanted or the creator wanted to present. If the fan base has a disproportionately revealed preference for the previous version, then can we safely say that at least as far as their player base is concerned, the author was probably wrong, and that the original version that was released pre-patch was a happy accident? Because that can happen sometimes. Sometimes you have an original idea as a creative. Circumstances require you to change that original version because of some restriction in your resources or something, and then people grow to like the version that was sort of born by necessity, the one that is a happy accident. And a healthy writer can even look at alternate versions of their work and say, yeah, no, this is actually better. Great example. The guy who wrote Who Framed Roger Rabbit. He wrote the book long before the movie came out. Then he watched the movie and he went, actually, shit, this is an improvement on my work. I
Well,
should
yeah, if I
I
remember
should
correctly,
go
sorry,
ahead.
I was going to say, if I remember correctly, the original concept for Roger Rabbit, or Who Framed Roger Rabbit, was, well, given the time, it wasn't cartoons, it was comic strips, right?
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, or newspaper cartoons as they used to be called. But point being, as far as I'm concerned, that is a healthy attitude to realize that just because it was your original idea doesn't mean that it's the best version of the idea or that the idea couldn't have been improved, or even that some of those improvements might not have been in your control. This is to contrast with, for example, Mr. Neil Gaiman, who keeps trying to realign the Sandman mythos in line with his original vision, quote unquote, and it continuously buggers everything up. Because some of the things that made Sandman awesome in its original format were the fact that it was set in and had to cope with being in the DC universe. But apparently, in absence of DC forcing him to use their characters, Neil is just fine with basically blacklisting all the DC references in the Sandman adaptation for Netflix, as an example. It is in my opinion that he ruined the franchise by doing so, even if it was his original vision. TM. Because sometimes, just like your, you know, objective mechanical vision can be bad, sometimes your creative vision also might need an eye doctor or two. And if nature goes out of its way to provide you that eye doctor, whether you ask for it or not, and it works, then you shouldn't bitch and whine about how that's not your original vision. You should take the win and realize that maybe you don't know everything you think you do. Moving on.
Alright, there is an additional complaint that gore has been censored in the final game, but that does not appear to have actually happened, with play settings, performance quality being responsible for different textures, performance/quality being responsible for different textures appearing or not appearing. The game is still plenty gory. Okay. I don't have anything to say to that.
Again, my only criticism here would be, again, if a large enough plurality of your fan base is saying we liked the old version better, then maybe step outside your comfort zone a little bit and ask yourself, was there something better about the original version, or at the very least more enjoyable about the original version that is now missing? It's again that self-awareness and humility thing I was just talking about, with just because it was your hashtag original vision doesn't necessarily mean it's perfect, and doesn't necessarily mean that when life hands you a happy accident you shouldn't take it with a smile instead of bitching. Because that seems to be what happened. You had a vision in your head, life seems to have gotten in your way and by necessity made you present something else, and rather than realize that you were handed a win there, you stuck to your guns so hard that now you've pissed off like a third of your fan base. Oops.
Moving on.
Yep, moving on.
Alright. Sorry. The argument comes down to the idea that this is talking about a couple of inches of fabric on a couple of outfits in a game full of even more revealing outfits that weren't changed. There's no evidence this was forced, and the developer has declared it was what they wanted as the final draft. But now the same crowd that championed the game is protesting against it, claiming censorship, no matter how minor or insignificant, as a matter of principle. Those outside this small circle, those outside this small circle are sort of just shaking their heads and unable to believe people are seriously upset about this.
Because again, I'm going to play fandom's advocate here. And this is one of those things that absolutely derails my brain when it comes to talking philosophically about art. Authors need to fucking learn their place a little bit and deflate their egos a little bit. Nobody cares about your authorial intent. No one. Niet. Nil point. And no one, frankly, should care about your authorial intent. What people generally, as in not in the hoary holes of academia, what people generally care about in regards to art is quality. So even if life hands you a mulligan and tweaks one of your sacred authorial intents in such a way that the end product is actually more enjoyable than you intended, or has more complexities than you intended, you should not come in here like a interventionist god and go, how dare you enjoy things that weren't part of my authorial intent. You should maybe accept that your job as an author in many cases is not to control a piece of art, it is to act as the facilitator for that piece of art, i.e., maybe instead of placing yourself in the authoritarian god role of your artwork, you should place yourself in a service role. And yes, I'm going to be slightly philosophical about this and make the point that this is the difference between modern sort of scope of art theory and ancient sort of scope of art theory. Namely, in ye olden days, as in actual historical tradition and not traditionalism, fuck you, Carl Jung, the belief was that the art itself didn't come from your intent. Whether you want to believe it came from independent spontaneous invention, or some kind of subconscious impulse, or the muses, the fates, the fae, God, etc. The idea was that the artist's job was to serve the art, not the other way around. We have completely inverted this metric in a lot of ways in modern day art theory, and it is fucking insufferable. And it makes artists have egos the size of goddamn mountains. Egos that are usually entirely unwarranted, and that usually end up biting themselves in the ass because they get so hung up on how great good art makes them that they end up nerfing their own art and their own import, thereby. Moving on.
All right. Last paragraph. It's not out of the realm of possibility that Shift Up will change these outfits back, and I honestly think they might. However goofy it may seem, this is easily one of the most provocatively designed characters this genre has ever seen.
Not even close.
Yeah.
There are
Okay.
Japanese hentai games. Your point is entirely moot.
Okay, let's even in like standard fare games like
Bayonetta.
yeah, what actually what genre is Stellar Blade? Is it like supposed to be a hack and slash character action game, or
I think it's like a sci-fi fantasy type of thing. I think. So like
okay,
Bayonetta, Samus Aran, a lot of the characters from the Underworld games, not to mention all the male beefcake that is in every game under the sun, and nobody seems to give a shit about when men are objectified in that
all
way.
right.
But
So let me.
well.
So I stopped in the middle of that. Let me reread this. It is not out of the realm of possibility that Shift Up will change these outfits back, and I honestly think they might. However goofy it may seem, is easily one of the most provocatively designed characters this genre has ever seen, and it feels like there's just no winning with this specific group, always looking for some new dragon to slay. If they get a piece of lace or two removed from costumes, will they be happy? That remains unclear, but it seems doubtful.
My sweet journalistic fucker. Hear me out on this. It used to be quite well understood that when you make art for public mass media consumption, your main goal, or at least one of your main goals, should be to please your customer base and or convert that customer base as much as possible into a fan base. I don't know why. Well, actually, I have several. I actually have somewhat of a good idea why fan base and or customer base have become demonized to the point of subhumanness. But as a general rule, when you make art for mass media public consumption, when you make not just public art, but art for like popular culture, your main job is to treat your customer base slash fan base the way old school artists would treat a singular patron when they were commissioned to make an art piece. Because this is the thing. People don't seem to. A lot of people in the art world today don't seem to understand this. It doesn't matter how many patrons you have, i.e., it doesn't matter whether you're making art for a singular person or for mass public pop culture consumption. You're still supposed to respect the wishes of your patron. And when you're making art for the masses, for the public, for the populace, that public, that group of people is to be treated in the same way as you would treat a singular patron if you were Da Vinci working for the Medicis, for example. And you can bet your ass that if any of the Renaissance artists treated their patrons the way modern day people who oversee IP and pop culture treat their fan bases, not only would they be treated in the exact same way, there would be literal angry fucking lynch mobs, and or you might get clamped in irons if you really pissed off your patron that way. So I don't want to hear this. Why should we have to give our patrons what they want? Shtick. It's stupid. Your job as an artist, when you make art for someone other than yourself, or other than to be displayed in a gallery, when you make art for pop culture reasons, you should treat your customer base slash fan base like a old school artist would treat their patron in the Renaissance. Namely, satisfy your patrons, then they like you, then your profile as an artist goes up. But if you don't satisfy your patrons, and if you in fact go out of your way to dissatisfy your patrons at every fucking turn, you do not get to be pissed off with them when they are pissed off with you. This has been a public service announcement for those of us that actually understand how art is supposed to work, for the people who apparently don't.
So moving on.
Yes, moving on.
Yeah, so that was the end of the article. We're gonna move on to something that I might have a little more to say about. It's actually something I sent.
I knew we were gonna have to cover it as soon as I saw it. You sent it before I saw it, so
yeah, fair enough. So the image of a new image has been released of David Cornsweet as Superman. So first off, I want to say I don't hate it. I know I've been
the image is buffering. I'll be right back.
All right. So yeah, I will say I don't hate it. It's serviceable. It does have some nods to the new 52 Superman costume. David Cornsworth looks fine in it. It looks clothy, which I can respect. You know, not. It doesn't look. All right.
Okay, now I can see it.
All right. I was just trying to go over general things. Like I said, I don't hate it. Like some other people have kind of been about it.
I think I'm more on the negative side with this, but you're the Superman fan, so I'll let you go.
Well, for one thing, I can definitely see he has trunks, which fucking finally.
I don't know why that's so controversial, but
like, okay,
yeah.
Even from just a costume design thing, it helps break up all the fucking blue. You take away the trunks, because so many people have so many problems with fucking trunks. I don't get it. But it helps break up the blue of the rest of the suit.
I think because the like Reddit tier douchebags see trunks and they think to themselves, why is he wearing his underwear on the outside? And it's like, that's not what they are. That's not what trunks are or ever were, you morons. If you knew anything about fashion, you would know that trunks have been a thing for, many years. But anyway.
I mean, we have swim trunks. And does anyone call those things underwear? Like seriously,
I don't fucking I don't get it, people.
But
it's I'm not gonna be an elitist prick here, but I'm having a very hard time not using the phrase fashion history illiteracy.
Anyway,
because it is seriously just ill. It's like when people call kilts skirts, and I'm just like, do you have any idea how many people you are pissing off right
now? But yeah, overall, I don't hate it. I actually had seen someone post an idea, like a theory, that this is like his starting costume, which is why it looks a little modernized, a little, little more ragged. And someone pointed out that it does have some inspirations, like with certain line details on the costume. It's like on the suit itself, that it looks like the new 52 Superman costume, which wasn't bad if I remember the design correctly. But by the end of the movie, he could have a more like classic Superman costume. I'm willing to be like, I know we've been very critical of James Gunn, mainly because he seems kind of scatterbrained with the project of DCU.
Yeah, I still don't see the creativity meshing with this. Doesn't mean that I don't want it to. Doesn't mean that I don't hope I'm wrong. But I have to call things the way I see them.
Right? Yeah, I honestly hope I'm wrong. And some people mentioned the well, for one thing, this is a promo photo. I'm honestly very certain. It's like when we talked about like the Batman like behind the scenes photos. Of like the
It'll
stunt.
look better in the appropriate camera lenses and shite.
Yeah. So any criticisms here, I don't really feel are warranted, more or less. I do wish he was in a better pose, just because to see the full costume, because it's supposed to be showing off the costume, and you're kind of not getting that here. I will say that is a gripe I have for it, but I honestly take this picture with like what's happening in the background, and I am assuming that is Solaris the Tyrant Star, which if they're having that as a villain for his first movie, I can sort of respect that because they're actually going into Superman mythos.
Well, James Gunn loves his obscure references, so
Yeah.
I'm not as worried there as I otherwise would be. If anything, one of my main criticisms of the DC lineup so far, as we have it when it was announced, was that it wasn't going obscure enough and it wasn't James Gunn enough. So
Yeah.
I do like the possibility that he's filling in the gap with more James Gunness than I thought he would, which is good.
But some people have complained that with the Tyrant Star or whatever is attacking in the background, and Superman's just sitting here, which he's pulling up his boot, which to me implies
okay, time to get to work, I think is supposed to be the implication there.
Yeah, which I don't think a lot of people would get.
I got it, and
no, I got it. I'm saying like the people that want to complain about it don't get it.
I mean, not to cut you off if you had more to.
No, I think I'm good for now.
Okay, because I did want you to have first dibs on it because you are the Superman fan.
I wouldn't say I am a super in this kind of cavalcade of weirdos we have with the podcast. I'm the Superman guy, but I wouldn't call myself the Superman fan because I'm not.
I'm sure considering how much your personality also kind of mirrors the Superman ethos, that I would slightly disagree with you there, but nevertheless, my main issues with this have to do with why this particular image was chosen as the reveal image, because it is the design reveal image, and that is
sorry.
And that is, it's very obvious that this still, if this is indeed a still from the movie or a sort of concept art from the movie, it's very obvious that this is a point in the movie later on in the movie, because the suit has stains on it. Like, there are darker stains on the suit.
Battle damage.
Yeah, and I have two related problems with that. One, if this is supposed to be the reveal image for the design of the suit, I would rather have seen a suit that was unvarnished or undamaged, because it gives us a good idea of what it's actually supposed to fucking look like. And two, given that one of the biggest complaints about the Snyderverse Superman, not Henry Cavill, because Henry Cavill knew full well the character he was supposed to be playing, they just never let him play it. but specifically the approach of the Snyderverse Superman was, this is so dark, this is trying to do what Nolan did for Batman. And so I think I speak for, well, I speak with the assurance of most Superman fans that I have ever known, including Brainstormer, that one of the main things people wanted from the new Superman, if we were going to get a new Superman, was a much brighter, more over the top, more wholesome and altruistic Superman instead of grimdark. And the problem with the stains on the suit that darken it is, one, it literally darkens the color scheme, but also aesthetically and tonally, it implies more grimdark type shit, especially when you consider the New 52 aspects of the suit, which, if you were gonna take a stab at Superman again, and you were gonna try to distinguish yourself from the Snyderverse, going New 52 was a very stupid idea, because I have never known a DC fan who didn't get their start in comics with the New 52 who hasn't said the New 52 was an unnecessarily grimdark downturn in the DC universe at large. And
Um,
even if you wanted the world of the DCU to be a grimdark New 52 style universe, Superman is once again the avatar of altruism, wholesomeness, and idealism. And one of the
uh,
major criticisms of the previous Superman was not nowhere near enough altruism, etc. So it would have been smart to lean into the bright and colorful aspect of Superman, especially
uh,
for this revival image, I think.
right. So, Giant Turtle, I'd say that it sort of looks like he's either depressed or begrudgingly going out. I I could see where you're coming from with that, but I would argue determination. That's what I'm getting from the look on his face.
The look, I'll say for my part, the look looks like a look of anger rather than a look of determination. I could be filling in blanks there, and DT might be filling in some blanks there, but it doesn't look like the expression of a character who has the aura of all shucks, as I sometimes put
Right.
it, which is
So
very much
I
Superman's thing.
okay. So what was I gonna say? Right. So one, this is clearly a promo pic. I would say.
Mhm.
I don't think it's still from the movie. One, because it's not a wide shot. It's not a wide
No,
frame. Like
and
yeah,
it's if anything, it looks like a shot from like um just after wrapping production and they stuck something on the green screen.
yeah.
Um,
Personally, if I was doing a promo image for this movie, right, and this is just me, so uh, given for one thing, if I'm gonna do a Superman movie, I would want to focus Clark being a journalist and stuff, on the ground reporting and all that. The little guy looking out for that stuff. 'Cause that's Clark's whole thing.
the save a cat from a tree of it all, so to
Thank you.
speak.
But also Jimmy being a photographer would make a lot of sense. Like you framed it, like that image was released like it was a photo from the Daily Planet. Like have it be a headline. Who is the Superman? And you see this picture of Superman flying, and it says the image is taken by Jimmy Olsen.
From where I'm standing, I might have gone even more cheese or even more cornball and literally shown a realization of the Action Comics #1 cover of him saving the guy stuck underneath the car. Um,
Yeah,
which
that's
is something I would expect from James Gunn, but here again, I think my main issue with this is it once again denotes a darker take on Superman than is either warranted or wanted by literally everyone, especially after the Snyderverse version. And again, I want to stress this with all the stress that I can stress it. That is not Henry Cavill's fault. Henry Cavill wanted to play a proper Superman in the exact same way as he wanted to play a proper Geralt of Rivia. And he would have done well at it based
Yeah,
on
it's
his personality and mannerisms outside of production.
it's always
But
weird. It's weird to me because I've noticed this when I've like looked at people that talk about the new Superman movie coming out, and kind of I don't want to say bash Henry Cavill, but kind of say like he's the one to blame for how
the
shitty
the
how
reason being is Henry Cavill is a fanboy who actually gives a damn about these various franchises, be it Superman, be it Witcher, or be it Warhammer, and they don't like someone who can actually put his foot down and hold Hollywood to the standards of this is an established IP, this is an established piece of pop culture / lore / fandom. Therefore, you will respect the ethos of the fandom. Which, by the way, if Henry ever sees this, that is something that I respect the hell out of. And don't you dare let them beat you down on that point, Henry. You are correct for standing up for the lore. You are correct for standing up for the IPs. You are correct for standing up for the fandom in general and your fandom in particular. And don't let anyone tell you different. You are the good guy in this scenario, no matter what they tell you. But that is the main reason why they want to demonize Henry Cavill, because he is apparently quote unquote difficult to work with because he is a genuine fan who wants to see genuine service done to these franchises. Why the fuck that should make him difficult to work with if you actually gave a damn, I don't know, which just goes to prove how deeply the virus of fandom is the enemy, IP is the enemy, make art a weapon in our camp has
right.
has spread into
So,
Hollywood.
okay, all right. So moving on.
Yeah,
The next thing, still relating to Superman.
yeah. Because I wanted to give us something more than just the image to talk about, and so I found an article, and it is actually relating to some of our criticisms about the reveal, so it works.
Okay, so this originally, this is from BountyIntoComics.com. Fan
Mhm.
alters image of David Cornsweet. I am fairly certain I am pronouncing his last name wrong, and I feel incredibly bad about that.
Everyone is and does, and he hasn't said anything to the contrary, so he just has one of those names that's difficult to get right. I'm sorry.
I mean, Henry Cavill as well. You know, some people would say Cavill and stuff. I
Yeah,
said that.
the people have been on both sides of the Cavill
Yeah.
argument in
Yeah.
many times over. Same
Okay,
thing
so
with Taylor Lautner or Lautner back in the day, depending. But yeah,
I always heard Lautner, but all right. Fan alters image of David Cornsweet. Cornsweet. I think I. As Superman honestly makes it look better.
apologies, David. We
Yeah.
Brainstormer is bad at names,
Unless I am
and
told how to pronounce, unless I hear it, I can't pronounce it.
I apologize as well, simply by virtue of I've never heard his name actually said by him, which to me is the standard of, well, however they pronounce their name is how I'm going to pronounce it, because, well, they would fucking know, one assumes.
Yeah.
Um,
All right. This is written by J.B. Augustine, published May 9th, 2024. The first image of newly crowned Superman and David Cornsweet hit the web this week to an arguably mixed reaction. But let's face facts. The reaction has been pretty negative. Even those who don't mind Cornsweet taking over have issues with the costume and the contrast.
yeah,
Okay.
I would agree with that assessment, which is yet another
I
case of the DCU idea kind of being half baked, or at least not being executed well, which doesn't
I
bode well.
again, I would say I'm more or less on the fence To be fair, it could
I
always be worse. Let's be fully honest on that. Things can
no,
always be worse.
it could definitely be worse. We could be going full Injustice Superman for God's sake, but which Brainstorm and I have both made our gripes about Injustice and how it would have actually made more sense if it were a Batman story, before. But that's neither here nor there. The point being, it flabbergasts me, and I'm freaking new to the Superman defense arguments here, and Brainstormer sort of dragged me there kicking and screaming. But it flabbergasts me how people don't just have like lack of respect for Superman as a character conceptually. They seem to just straight up have active disrespect for him a lot of times. They don't. Nobody seems to respect the whole avatar of idealism, altruism, and wholesomeness thing, even though we basically kind of already got that with Captain America in the MCU, and that's why it flabbergasts me even more, because, like, I guess you could make the argument that if no superhero had ever been wholesome or altruistic in the modern era, that might at least have a point of why people struggle so hard doing Superman correctly. But no, they have like, even though it's kind of blasphemous and backwards to, reverse engineer Superman from Captain America, because if anything, it's the other way around. Even though that's kind of blasphemous and backwards, if you want a template of how to do Superman in the wholesomeness, altruism, and idealism, aw shucks vein, just look how the MCU handled Captain America, especially in his first movie. Job done. But apparently no. Because people just straight up have active disrespect for the idea that someone can be both powerful and good. And I can understand the philosophical disagreements there and the philosophical issues there, but in this case, in the case of this character, that is what the character is meant to represent. That is what the character is. He is the at least hypothetical example of a person who is simultaneously very powerful to the point of being almost invulnerable, and purely good to the point that they would never hurt a fly and have, as I say, the all shucks energy, or what's sometimes referred to as golden retriever energy in the modern zeitgeist. That is who Superman is, and the fact that people simply can't stow the attitude aside and actually present that character as he is supposed to be represented, come hell or high water, fucking flummoxes me. Moving on, though. Sorry, I know I kind of stole your thunder there.
Honestly, you said it better than I would have. Okay. So, regardless of what you may think, never fear, fan art is here to save the day, as one fan on social media is trending for changes he made to the official Cornsworth Superman photo. I'm never one to discourage fan art or fan creations ever.
And honestly, half the time it seems like Hollywood actively disdains to do their fucking job, so...
Yeah, no, I agree.
Good that somebody is doing it for them.
Alright. And honestly, he did a fantastic job. Not only is the costume vastly improved, and there's the image there, but he also made the Messian scene better.
Mise en scène. It means place setting. It's usually a term reserved for culinary things, but in the film industry, it's also used to refer to things like lighting, atmosphere, and aesthetic.
Okay. On X or Twitter, whatever the fuck you want to call it, at Gotham Chief posted his take on Superman and the Sun, which shows Cornsworth in the exact same pose and costume. However, the room is well lit, taking in the sunshine, and Metropolis is not under attack.
Yeah, no, that is better. That is actually, like, those two changes alone are worlds better, and I don't know, and once again, this is gonna be a me yelling at Hollywood moment, but why is it so hard to get obvious shit right? What
Honestly, I wouldn't
when
even.
did?
You know what
Sorry,
would, honestly would have been a good promo image? Him in a phone booth changing.
that would have been cool too.
I know phone
I
booths are basically a dead thing at this point.
Yeah, they don't exist anymore. But why the fuck isn't this Superman a period piece anyway?
Or at the very least, I mean, with the DC universe, it's always been a heightened reality, and even when it looks like it's supposed to be set in the 1920s or 60s or something, it always has heightened technology. I
Yeah,
mean,
the
the
DC,
Justice League,
yeah, the animated DC universe from the 90s and 2000s did a very good job at that. Even though you could argue it was set during a version of the modern, modern as of when the thing was airing, there was in Gotham the Art Deco slash Dark Deco aesthetic. In Metropolis, in Superman the Animated Series, you had the sort of retro futurist World's Fair vibe, et cetera, and so on.
right? Said the skyline is bright, clear, and rather peaceful, with the Daily Planet visible in the background. It looks reminiscent of Superman the Animated Series and an Alex Ross illustration rolled into one.
Which it
It's also
should, because those are both correct ways of portraying the character.
it's also notable how much cleaner and less beat up the Kingdom Come inspired House of L logo looks. Other fans are taking notice of the shinier, more hopeful glow of the edit, and they're praising it for giving us the lighter tone that was promised. With the post here saying,
Yeah, agreed. Very, very much agreed. Because again, like 90% of all the criticisms of Man of Steel, and they were very valid criticisms, having nothing to do with Henry Cavill, was the unnecessarily grimdark quasi Batmaning of Superman, and the just sheer not understanding of Superman's ethos vis-a-vis Zack Snyder forcing a character who is basically the categorical opposite of Randian objectivism to behave as though he's a Randian objectivist character.
so, all right, so some quotes from Twitter. High key, what they should have released instead of what they did. Replied at not get hickey. Now this should have been the tone, bright and colorful. Wrote Alex Never 347. This is what the image should have been, to be honest, said Painful Gamer. Yeah, this makes it much better looking, affirmed Bat Manakov.
And I just now realized something that I probably should have brought up earlier when we were looking at just the image. With the apparently dark tone that James Gunn seems to have went with, it very much reminds me of that time years ago before he got the job that he said he just didn't understand Superman, and didn't want to write him accordingly. Which I worry slightly that means we're going to get yet another person trying to turn Superman into something he isn't, just because they don't like slash understand slash respect the whole avatar of idealism, altruism, innocence, and hope thing. But
All right, moving on.
yeah,
Gunn and Warner Brothers are trying to move on from Zack Snyder, but it doesn't look to fans or their harshest critics that they've put too much distance between each other. They haven't shaken off the muted tones or cynical expressions. If at Gotham Chiefs alterations prove anything, it's this. With or without Cornsworth, fans know what they want.
yes, agreed. Other thing that probably would have done worlds of a difference to change the thing and I know it's a bit bitchy to whine about Cornsworth's acting here, but would it have killed somebody to tell him to smile? Because, like, Superman is one of those characters who has, what's occasionally referred to as a 1,000-watt smile, i.e., the kind of smile that can light up a room just by itself, because that's who Superman is as a character. He is the character who basically just doesn't have a mean bone in his body. Like, even his worst enemies, he cares for.
All right, last sentence.
Mhm.
When you say you'll give them bright, cheerful, that conjures up a particular image, case in point at the very top, which was Christopher Reeve's Superman, and they will tell you what it should look like. Believe that.
Yeah. Honestly, like, I'm not against it looking different than Christopher Reeve, because it has been almost 50 years since the Donner movies. But the character is who the character is, no matter which aesthetic you want to slot him into. He's not grim. He's not dark. It basically does basically just come down to he's not fucking Batman. Stop trying to turn him into Batman. And he is essentially the kind of the opposite of Batman, and he's supposed to be. And another slight gripe I have here. You would think, with all of the evil versions of Superman out there, the injustices, the Omni-Mans, the Homelanders, it would be child
Plutonian.
play. Huh?
Plutonian. It was written by Mark Waid. It's an evil Superman from a series called Irredeemable.
Yeah, but okay. With all of the evil Superman XPs out there, or the morally questionable Superman XPs out there, you would think it would be child play to reverse engineer it back into a proper Superman. Again, especially when you have the guidepost of Chris Evans' Captain America as an example of how to do wholesome aw shucks energy correctly. You would think people would be able to look at all the evil Supermans and go, how do we do a good wholesome Superman? Well, we just take this and we do the opposite. Like, literally, that's all you would have to do. Take all the well done versions of evil Superman and reverse it. As in, reverse the trauma, reverse the cynicism, reverse the alien rage, and so on, and figure out to make a character who is the opposite of those things. Who are they? What would they look like? Or how would they see the world? And how do we encapsulate that? It should be really easy, especially with all the reverse engineer the counter examples, and you'd be somewhere in the general vicinity. But no, apparently not.
So speaking of like fan edits, I did do my own, though I didn't Photoshop it like the one that was mentioned in the article did. I mainly just did some color correction because that was something I forgot to bring up when we first talked about the image. Is it did seem weirdly bland in terms of the color, which is weird because there was a lot more, like there were bright colors in it, but they felt what's the word, toned down a bit.
Mm-hmm.
So I just like did some color correction on the image, and here it is.
Mm-hmm.
Go.
And it's okay. There it went. Yeah, it's still better. I'm half tempted to take my stab at it, and we can see my version next week, but I don't know if I should.
It's up to you, dude.
You know what? Fuck it. I'm gonna do it. Even though I am a dark, twisted, cynical bastard, I can at least see the value of a pure earthen-driven snow altruist, which apparently makes me worlds better than all of Hollywood at this point.
All right. Um, you know what? I also might, just because I think we've talked about it, but I think there's a good representation of what we would want from this Superman movie. A fan trailer I remember being released last year. It's actually by someone that we've watched a lot of fan trailers from, Soylent Brack 1.
Ah,
Uh,
why he hasn't been hired by Hollywood. Well, actually, we know why he hasn't been hired by Hollywood. Apparently, Hollywood hates fandom so much that they consider Henry Cavill to be the devil for standing up for it.
uh, but yeah, might do that next week if we have a slot open. I'll put like a fan. I'll put the fan trailer there,
Mm-hmm.
and we can watch that.
And I'll do my attempt to update it, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah. All right. Let's.
I am curious what you'll think, because I will do my best to not be an asshole.
I mean, I don't know how you can be an asshole when you're color correcting something, but
Apparently Hollywood finds a way to ruin things in the color correction edits, so
all right.
it's
So
possible.
this is going to be something that Dalton is not really going to be able to say anything about, but I figured it was warranted because I saw this pop up on my Google News feed.
Mm-hmm.
But for any fans of Rooster Teeth, everyone is aware that so this is Fire.com, Red versus Blue, released its final season Red vs. Blue Restoration as like a kind of movie. Which is on Amazon Prime, although I have not seen it yet because I'm gonna be honest, I do not want to ask if I can buy or rent it. And a few weeks ago when we saw the trailer, I'm gonna be fully honest, it did not appeal to me. I did not like what it looked like it was doing with anything.
Mm.
And apparently it has kind of divided the fandom. While it had good moments and stuff, apparently it is kind of not great in terms of final season.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Or I guess movie at this point. But all right, so this written by Chris Baker and published May 7th, 2024. Machinima transformed viral videos. Now it's gone, but its legacy is everywhere. Video games are increasingly a content creation tool as well as a pastime, proving the impact of Machinima is everywhere. So, for the record, for anyone who doesn't know what Machinima is, it is the hold on, actually, I'm going to look up the definition because I sort of remember it, but I sort of don't. Okay. Method of making animated film using software similar to that design for making video and computer games. That's Machinima.
Mm.
And kind of the first Machinima that was ever made was Red versus Blue. Like it was the first. It's the longest going. It was the longest going web series. 20 years, 21 years actually. Because it came out on April 1st, 2003.
Mm. Also, DT, is that Alien Rage a reference to Adamantium Rage? Have you been watching Linkara finally?
All right, so I'm going to read this. Red vs. Blue is officially over. On Tuesday, Warner Bros. Discovery released Red vs. Blue Restoration, the final installment in the long running saga that was once at the forefront of a whole new form of entertainment. Web videos created from in game footage. Machinima signaled a new world where that footage of Halo, in Red vs. Blue case, could power viral clips. That was 2003. Now it seems as if Restoration might be Machinima's swan song. I would have to disagree just because I constantly look for new Machinima series, which are on YouTube, and there are good ones that actually I think can carry on without, and have grown beyond as well, like um, Red versus Blue. I actually can recommend some and even send links to the Discord if anyone's interested. Uh, but
I didn't.
I would.
Sorry, DT. I don't think I said that. I'm confused where you pulled that from.
All right. Cinema directors use game engines which allow them to record a scene from any conceivable angle, like a Hollywood director uses a cinematographer. Uh, 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 if you're interested in Dragon Turtle, if you're interested in like watching some Machinima series that, uh, since Red versus Blue is done, I can put some links in the Discord. That's what I meant. Okay. Wired wrote in a 2002 piece heralding the potential of this new filmmaking technique. When it launched a year later, Red vs. Blue exemplified those possibilities. The series was created by linking several Xboxes together and recording footage of a Halo multiplayer match, then adding voiceover. The absurdist existential tone of the dialogue was a hilarious counterpoint to and commentary on the run and gun gameplay of the first person shooter used to create it. The show's creators founded a production company, Rooster Teeth, and made more than a dozen seasons worth of episodes. Uh, when you think back on it, yeah, it is rather impressive how far Rooster Teeth came before its downfall. Um, Granted, I do think I'm gonna be fully honest. I don't think that's going to be like another Rooster Teeth. Really, I mean, you can make the argument maybe Team 4-Star, but again, they came in like the early 2000s, late 2000s, early 2000s with
Yeah,
DB.
their heyday was relatively contemporaneous with Red versus Blue or Channel Awesome or any of those that generation of like uh content creators. So I don't think they're gonna. I don't see them having a second wind. I'd love to if they ever got around to adapting the Boo saga in its entirety, but
And
oh,
for,
I
I
think
remember the,
I
I remember
I think the clips we got that they did at the behest of certain content creators are basically all we're gonna get of them doing Boo, probably.
what was it? I remember they tried to make a couple pilots for a couple series on YouTube. Um, I don't think they ever got traction, which is unfortunate because I remember watching those, and those were actually pretty good and fun.
I do know several of their voice actors ended up making it big in the
Voice act-
anime dubbing space because the guy who voiced Cooler and Dr. Gero ended up being the dub actor for Ainzul Gon in Overlord. So
All right.
they have moved up in the world, so to speak.
Red vs. Blue would go on to develop a huge fan base and become a geek touchstone in the 2 decades that followed, which is why Restoration's release feels like an
Ignoble. I think you had it right.
Ignominious. No, IOUS.
Ignominious?
Okay, ignominious send off. In March, Rooster Teeth general manager Jordan Levin announced that Warner Discovery, now Rooster Teeth's parent company, was shutting down the studio, and it soon became clear that the IP was being split up and sold off for parts. Today, the final installment of Red vs. Blue is being unceremoniously dumped onto streaming platforms with minimal fanfare or promotion. I mean, to be fair, they never had really promotion. They actually have sucked at being promoting shit in the last 5, 6, maybe 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
Like even Ruby and shit.
Mm-hmm. Trying to ask why there's no promotion for Red versus Blue Restoration is a bit like asking why were none of the Channel Awesome movies released in theaters. Because that was never in the cards.
No, I mean, honestly, I remember in earlier seasons, like, I remember the chorus trilogy of Red versus Blue, which is kind of where I stopped watching Red versus Blue because, it ended pretty. I'm gonna be honest. I'm thinking that's just like the legit end of the actual series, more or less, just because it had a proper send off for a lot of the characters and stuff. But God damn it, where was I going with this? Fuck. They did do marketing rather well at those times. Like they did like not only trailers but really cool things that's like teasers and stuff that honestly you could make an argument that they were canon to the actual series and not just promotion. Like they did audio logs for some of the characters in between the seasons, tie you up. Yeah, it's really that was cool. But again, like as time went on during the 2010s of Rooster Teeth, I guess greed and other stuff started to kind of affect it, and they didn't really put as much effort into the shit. Which I guess kind of became more obvious now that I'm looking back on it. All right, moving on. It's a sad moment for fans of Red vs. Blue and Rooster Teeth, but it's a great moment to reflect on the impact the web series had. Machinima isn't talked about much these days, but across the media landscape, you'll find people using games to create everything from streams to clips to GIFs to art films, and doing it in ways that were unimaginable 21 years ago. Machinima is not a word we use anymore, and it's not really something we think of as like a medium or a genre anymore, says Adam Thomas.
I mean, speak for your fucking self. The internet exists.
I mean, there are still people doing it, but I would argue that it has kind of machinima content creators have kind of slowed to a crawl these days, just because I won't lie, it does take a lot of work to make a machinima.
Yeah.
And to gain people to help work on that, and it's a commitment thing, and also just like possibility it could not be profitable, Yeah, it's a whole thing, to be fully honest. It sucks because there are some really creative stories out there that were told via machinima that I watched growing up. That were just really big and cool. I mean, there are still people that make them, and it does take them a long time to create that stuff because, like I said, it's a time-consuming project, and most of these guys do it more as like a part-time thing or just a passion project, but they have lives to live,
Well, that and the like content creator landscape from 20 years ago is not the same landscape as it is
Oh yeah,
now.
absolutely, absolutely. But
Hell,
uh,
even speaking of Has Been Hotel, even that pilot was released back in 2019, and that even feels like a world away from where we are now, because
yeah,
COVID felt like 2 or 3 years in a row, even though it lasted only one, really. But
a year and a half, I'd say.
well, yeah, but it felt like 3 to 5 years, and
Yeah.
historically it changed a bunch of shit,
Mm-hmm.
more so than the entire previous decade, basically.
But I would say it has become niche. I mean, it started out niche and it didn't really explode in popularity, but it's a niche genre, machinima, which
Hmm.
honestly I think kind of helps it because you get more quality than crap.
I do wonder if it ever will take off once Hollywood finally figures the fuck about how to
Actually, okay, now that I remember
do
it,
a
there
video
are.
game adaptation.
Now I remember it. I could spend some time searching for stuff, like link, and I might do that for some that. But there is like a video series someone did not too long ago of doing like a list of good machinimas to watch. So I might actually just send those on the Discord.
Hmm.
Most of it's sci-fi stuff, Bones. I don't really think you'd be interested in it,
Hmm.
and
Like
mostly
I said, I missed getting in on the ground floor of Red versus Blue. Like I said, that era of YouTube or content creation for me is mostly occupied by Channel Awesome and or Cinema Massacre stuff, i.e. the broader Channel Awesome universe and the Angry Gamer, which is sort of connected but not quite.
right.
So I kind of missed
Right.
the boat on Red versus Blue, and it would feel cheap to get into Machinima now after the sort of grandfather of all Machinima has died a ignoble death here.
Mm. All right. Okay. Machinima is not a word we use anymore, and it's not really something we think of as a medium or a genre
You read
anymore.
that
Says
already.
Adam. Yeah, I didn't finish the whole thing, so I was just
Ah,
says Adam Bamas, a writer for the Internet Culture newsletter Garbage Day, but it's still going strong. In fact, it's everywhere. What hath Machinima wrought? For starters, look at the phenomenon of Fortnite concerts over the past few years. Major recording artists like Kid Leroy, Ariana Grande, and Travis Scott have performed sets for millions of people logged into the game world. Little Nas X did a similar virtual event inside of Roblox. Okay.
oh God, the Edge Lord.
The reason those concerts happen is because Epic realized that people were just hanging out in Fortnite and not even playing, notes Bumaz. It's like an evolution of a social space, and since Fortnite's gameplay is centered on building and creating things, as well as shooting each other, it was only natural that Epic would also lean into developing tools that help people express themselves and entertain each other within the game world.
Honestly, if anything is going to evolve into the Oasis from Ready Player One, especially the movie version, it's probably going to be Fortnite.
I was gonna
Fortnite,
say VR.
Fortnite, Fortnite plus VR is basically the Oasis.
Well, I was gonna say VR chat.
Well, yeah, but that's going to be the delivery mechanism. But I mean, in terms of the content of the Oasis,
Hmm, fair
especially
enough.
again, especially in the movie, is very Fortnite esque.
All right.
So you take Fortnite, you throw it on VR and augmented reality, and you have the Oasis basically.
Yeah, not to mention,
Throw in Google Stadia while you're at
I
it, and you're
mostly,
basically
I
there.
most, uh, Yeah, in terms of machinima, I know a lot of Halo machinima. There's also like some Minecraft role play machinima stuff that I've seen that's actually really good, enjoyable,
Someone
really.
machinima Minecraft? That's interesting.
Yeah,
That was not on my machinima bingo card.
well,
Of all the
uh,
things I could see being turned into a
to be fair, there
machinima
was
bat.
to be fair, the guys there was this group that has changed its name a few times. Right now, I think it's going by Squared Media. They do Minecraft animations now, but they did originally start as Halo Machinima creators, which I think they were called Black Plasma Studios.
Neat.
Um, and I watched those when they came out. And they're a really good series, actually. Uh, uh, but they created this Minecraft animation series that was planned for 3 seasons, but because of cost and production and other factors, I believe were happening, they only did one. But it was a rather good one.
Mm.
It was like a it's basically like the Lord of the Rings high fantasy adventure series, which I think you would like, Dalton. It's called Songs of War. You can look it up on YouTube. They even have like the whole season made into a movie.
I will have to check it out, I suppose. Although, admittedly, I'm more a fan of urban fantasy and paranormal fantasy than high fantasy, but I will check it out anyway.
To be fair, they have like it was a full production. Like they even had like its own original soundtrack, which is amazing. And it's
Mm.
just, but besides the point, yeah, Rooster Teeth Red versus Blue honestly really kicked off a portion of the internet that I wanted to be a part of, but given my age and lack of experience and uh, ability to do so, because I do not have the equipment to make machinima. I
Yep.
could write, but uh,
I have a similar episode in my origin story where I wanted to be a Channel Awesome contributor once upon a not so very long ago, and then like right as I was getting ready to kick it off, the the change the channel thing happened and it died. So
uh,
as Trevor Belmont would say, God shits in my dinner once again.
right. The game publisher has also developed Epic Games, by the way, has also developed tools that let filmmakers use the underlying game engine that Fortnite runs on in their production process. For instance, Industrial Light and Magic has employed Epic's Unreal Engine in its Stagecraft virtual on-set production process since the first season of The Mandalorian. Huh.
Hmm.
For the most recent season, the company used Unreal to help actors and filmmakers visualize how a CG droid character would interact with flesh and blood actors.
Interesting. Good use of technology.
Yeah. When you're confronted with a sea of green and representations of characters on ping pong balls or tennis balls, it becomes a pretty daunting experience for the actors and the director. Epic Games Chief Technology Officer Kim Lebire tells Wired, I think what we've been able to do here is give control back to the filmmakers.
That reminds me of a story where when he was filming The Hobbit, Ian McKellen broke down crying at one point because he was having such a hard time acting opposite the green screen ping pong balls. Which, when Ian McKellen is failing to act up up to his par, then you know something is clearly wrong.
In a different galaxy far, far away, artist Tim Richardson recently collaborated with fashion designer Iris Van Herpen on the CG short Neon Rapture, which was also made with Unreal. The tech allowed Van Harpen, to push her eye-popping concepts and designs further than she ever could have in the real world. And Richardson says that the game engine was his soundstage for the production. Where the Red vs. Blue creators had to simply capture footage of themselves playing Halo, Richardson had a toolkit to work with that was specifically designed for someone intending to render content rather than have a play experience. Okay, that feels like you're kind of talking down about Red versus Blue because without Red versus Blue, a lot.
No, I think if anything, it's the other way around. I think they're trying to say that what Red versus Blue did is all the more impressive because of the tech limitations. I think.
Uh, uh, it allowed the filmmaking team and the fashion designer to prototype every aspect of the shoot, from designs to lighting, to costumes to sets, and mix motion capture data with a digital environment on the fly to figure out their shots. It was the closest thing to shooting live action I've experienced in VFX based filmmaking, Richardson said.
Mm.
I was able to share ideas and collaborate with Iris on a timescale impossible in linear VFX. I see game engines as an essential aspect of my future work. Meanwhile, online content creators continue to crank out live streams, film clips, and memes using games. Epic and the companies behind platforms like Roblox and Minecraft make it much easier for players to capture and edit their play footage in ways simpler than those utilized by Red vs. Blue creators, who had to daisy chain several Xboxes together. Some publishers have even ironed out rights issues to let people freely share that in game content on platforms like YouTube.
Hmm. Well, good. Things are actually moving forward in a meaningful way in one tiny corner of the tech space.
To a
If
much
only the rest of the world could catch up with it.
to a much larger extent than a lot of people think about, the internet was built so that people could talk about video games, and that still bleeds over into many things, says Bomas. Uh, for instance, meme culture is constantly suffused with video game stuff. Like, for instance, Skibbity Toilet, a long running series of bizarre and scatological short films created with Source Filmmaker, a content creation tool from game publisher Valve. For the record,
I
there
mean,
is actually a. Oh, sorry, just for a recommendation, because we are talking a lot about Machinima and stuff.
mm,
Um, there was actually this really amazing like horror movie used with Source Filmmaker called Emesis Blue. It's using the characters of Team Fortress 2,
mm,
and it's really amazing. Like it takes a lot of inspiration from like Stephen King. Uh, it's a horror film. I'm not gonna lie. It is like psychological horror. You would love it, Dalton. I know that.
interesting.
There's like a conspiracy. There's a lot of inspirations about it. It's really cool. I would recommend it. Again, I'll send links to a lot of things in the Discord when I have a chance to.
Mhm.
But yeah, like overall, I do agree. Is like video games are, especially video games that allow you to create within them, or even like the tools that are used to create those video games, you are allowed to use to create something with.
Mhm.
It's super interesting to see what people do with that stuff. Like what stories they create with that. And me being a storyteller myself, I'm always like super happy about
Mhm.
that stuff. Like people expressing themselves and telling a really cool and interesting story
Mhm.
through any medium. Uh, so, all right, moving on. The series has gradually developed its own elaborate lore, and it riffs on the look and feel of Machinima's past. It doesn't want to transcend the gaming tools it was created with, it constantly calls your attention to them. You could say that you could say there was a failure of imagination with Machinima, where many initially imagined that the digital puppeteer who was creating the footage inside of the game would, of course, want to make themselves and their role in the process completely invisible, and that their captured footage would be edited together and then consumed like a typical film or TV show. Uh,
No, the internet was created by nerds for nerds. Are you really that surprised?
Like again, and again, depending on who works on a machinima, you can get stories that are so vastly like different comparatively. Like there were machinima series that I know that are going on now or have gone on that do take place within the game, but it recognizes that it is the game that they're playing.
Hmm. I guess
Uh,
I guess I should have more accurately said internet culture was created by nerds for nerds. Obviously, you know, between Alan Turing and the bastards in CERN, they're the people who are actually responsible for creating the internet. But point being, the culture of the entity, like the formal
so
entity we call the internet, was constructed from the ground up by nerds for nerds.
Dalton, that's not remotely what I'm talking about, though.
No, no, but I was correcting myself from something I said
Okay.
else
Um,
previously.
Mich- wh- I'm sorry, John. So you don't know what machinima is, or are you fucking with me?
I think he's fucking with you. Or he blacked out for the last 20 minutes when we went into, like, or you went into quite great detail as to what machinima is, and the article also went into some, like, what lengthy detail as to what machinima is. So I assume he's
Uh,
either fucking with you or he has experienced brain damage recently.
I, I, Ma- machinima is using a game to make like a movie. Yeah, machinima is using a game or there was a company called Machinima that used that, but they never really. It's weird. I don't remember them ever really doing real Machinima.
It's using sort of pre-constructed gaming tools as a animation medium, effectively.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, using yeah, like Red versus Blue. Technically, you can make the argument that Red versus Blue was the first Machinima. Or yeah, no, I think it is actually. Now that I
Or,
consider,
or at least,
because
or at least the first popular one.
yeah, yeah, probably. Uh, all right, but I was talking about the first the first part of the first sentence of that paragraph, which is failure of imagination with machinima.
Yeah, no, I call bullshit. It
Yeah, I mean,
seems like the
it's,
person who made the
it's
article just doesn't like the grassroots imagination of the people who actually made the thing.
so given someone who has watched a lot of machinima, like not just like Red versus Blue, but like stuff that's just been posted on YouTube over the last decade. All so many various different like you have a comedy show that's a slice of life absurdist humor. You have like this sci-fi conspiracy story, one that actually just is like a love story, like a romance one. You would like that, don't? Though it's two straight people, so
Pooh.
it's done well enough.
Eh.
Um, I won't lie, there are a lot, specifically like Halo Machinima, which is the ones I'm referencing. Um, a lot of them do try to more or less. I don't want to say copy, but use Red versus Blue, the template of Red versus Blue, like the early seasons, uh, as the template for them, and then they kind of expound on it and go wildly various different directions, which works, you know.
Mm.
Um, just because it is the like you say the grandfather of machinima. So,
Hmm.
uh, my thing what I was saying was is that say there's a failure of imagination with Machinima is uh although
Frankly, kind of out of touch.
I don't think that is what the author of this article is saying, to be fair.
It is possible not. We shall see when we get back to the article, I suppose.
Okay, but content creators on Twitch and YouTube got several orders of magnitude more popular than the biggest Machinima project ever did by letting us see behind the curtain, keeping one foot in the real world and one foot in the game world. Again, I do make the argument that Machinima is rather niche genre of things, but content creators on Twitch and YouTube, like those big personalities and stuff, let's be honest, normies watch those people. That's why,
Well, there's that, and then there's the simple fact of this article very much seems to be coming from a like non-internet culture type space, and seems to just not understand how internet culture works.
Hold on. People might not realize the influence of Red versus Blue, but its producers certainly do. Our approach to content creation on emerging platforms paved the way for new media models, Levin wrote in his farewell memo announcing the shutdown of the company. We inspired generations of creators across streaming, machinima, animation, let's plays, merch drops, touring, podcasting, and more.
This is also true.
Yeah. The co-creators of Red vs. Blue recently got together one last time to play Halo on one of the original Xboxes that they had used to capture game footage for their trailblazing series. After some virtual killing and trash talking, each of the stars of the series were told that they get to keep the original controllers they had used to puppeteer their digital characters decades ago. Now that I have this incredible gift, where's the closest pawn shop? Quipped Matt Hullum, a Rooster Teeth co-founder who directed the final Red vs. Blue film.
I mean, I like the irreverent humor and the nostalgia baiting, but that joke might have been just the tiniest bit tone deaf.
A little bit.
Because there are, which, to say nothing else, fucking screw pod shops, fucking auction off that shit. I am sure there is a massively wealthy Red versus Blue fan out there somewhere who would make that like the centerpiece of their collection. Because again, this is the internet, baby, and the culture of the internet was built by nerds for nerds.
Mm.
And if anyone is more willing to if anyone is more willing to spend exorbitant amounts on their hobbies than nerds, I have not yet met them.
The tools and software might have evolved, but irreverence, humor, and game culture are still at the core of the huge trunk of online entertainment. Content that is increasingly being created with the games themselves. Okay, and they have the trailer here, which we already covered a few weeks back.
You did.
So I do have to ask, Dragon Turtle, have you seen? I think it came out this week or last week. Red vs. Blue Restoration, like the final season. It's supposed to be like on Amazon Prime now. I saw. I haven't really heard. I'm gonna be honest. I have not heard like really good things about it. And from what I remember watching of the trailer, I was not thrilled about it just because it did not look. What's the word I'm looking for? To be fair, they could have been on a deadline, just given that the shutdown of the company. Like, I don't think they're gonna put it on YouTube, Giant Turtle. To be fully honest, Like it's on Amazon Prime right now, and you gotta like either buy or rent it. Yeah, it's. I'm hoping someone does put it on YouTube, like burns a copy of it, though might get taken down. I'm not sure.
I mean, I'm
Um,
sure somebody will. Whether it stays up long enough for anyone to see it is a different matter, but
I,
I'm sure
I
somebody
I
will.
saw. I mean, there are clips being uploaded from it, but yeah, I'm sorry. It's just it does not look good. It doesn't really feel like the end of an era. It feels like it doesn't even feel like another season of Red versus
It went
Blue.
out
It
not
just
with a bang, but with a whimper.
less than a whimper.
Oh dear, that's that's sad. At least it didn't go. At least it didn't go down in a controversy like Channel also did.
Rooster Teeth did.
I mean,
A lot
this
of
is also true.
controversies. Yeah.
Mhm.
All right. Give me 1 sec to set up the next thing.
Yep. I just now remembered about the banana pills, so we'll probably use that as the pause word.
All right. Sorry. I'm back. Um, so, yeah, just kind of get some final things out about Red vs. Blue. So, not going to lie, I came in kind of late. Like, I wasn't. When it came out in 2003, I would have been about 3 or 4 years old at the time. So I didn't technically grow up watching it. I got in around when they started to get more into like serious storytelling and like not just random comedy like in the early seasons. I mean, it had story and stuff, but like after season 5, like the Blood Coach Chronicles, when it started to focus on like the Freelancer saga and stuff, that's where I got into it. Um, and I started to love it, and I went back and I binged the whole series. Um, that took me over a couple of
Mhm.
days because I had to like. Well, my family shared a computer at the time, so
Ah.
yeah. Um, yeah, but I don't know. Personally, I do think the Red versus Blue that I think a lot of people enjoyed did end at season 13. Like it had a great ending, while it was a sort of cliffhanger ending. It was an ending that still felt right given everything that was built up and set up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, season 13, like the end of that, which, not gonna lie, and I think I've mentioned this many times, the ending will always get me teary-eyed.
Mm.
Which is done, as I'm sure you're aware, or have made self-evident of myself, that if something is to elicit that type of response from me, then you know it's good.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I
I'm
am
glad I
actually.
don't use that standard because not that many things have managed to make me cry. I think the last thing that managed to make me cry, unironically, that was a piece of media was 2013, or was it 2012's? Her, the movie with Joaquin Phoenix and Scarlett Johansson.
Um, Funny enough, when Red vs. Blue Zero was announced, which I think was in 2020 or 2021, or maybe it was 2022, I can't remember, which was supposed to sort of be a spin-off with like new characters. I was fine with it because to me the Reds and Blues story was kind of over after season 13.
Mm.
But they kind of fucked it up because, well, from what I remember, the guy who directed that season uh, was a major fight animator for Death Battle. And a good guy, it was good. Fights were good and stuff, but it wasn't really a storyteller. And I don't know, it was weird to me. So funny enough, I am actually working on a AU spin-off series for the Red vs. Blue universe that stars the Shatter Squad characters. I'm actually up to 9 stories right now.
Hmm. Because he just can't help himself, folks.
I really can't. Um,
This, by the way, is why every time Brainstormer announces that he has a new creative idea to work with, I just end up with this demonic looking smile on my face. I go full Alistair.
right.
And what's even funnier is Brainstormer knows when it happens, even if we can't see each other.
I I can tell by your voice. It's not really. Again, the weirdest thing is, like, even with the Ruby rewrite that I'm doing, which is extensive in its own right because I'm mainly just building up the world. I'm doing a world building rewrite more or less than the actual show itself, because there are people who've done better, done story rewrites that I think are really good, and I don't think I could do any better. Or I'm basically just plagiarizing their stuff. So I'm just working on I'm just working,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I'm just world building because honestly, that's where I kind of excel a little bit more than I do other
It's
times.
also where the show apparently needs it the most because
It
fucking
really
hell.
does. Yeah, it really does. Yeah. Even though I am sad that Rooster Teeth is ending and a lot of their projects are kind of fallen to the wayside and forgotten, I do hope that if nothing else, like even in the past, uh, fans of those properties and of Rooster Teeth themselves are very creative and will kind of continue on the legacy, even in a spiritual way.
Mm.
Um, I mean, I'm doing my part, like I said. Uh,
Because
so,
he literally can't not.
right. All right. So the last thing we had was something I sent. It came out about a week or so ago. It is a cinematic trailer for a game called SCP-5K. It is a tactical shooter co-op game with the plot. Well, obviously, it's based off. Was originally called SCP Pandemic, which took inspiration from the short, from SCP-5K, the short. Obviously, that's taking some inspiration from that. Still, they rebranded it to just SCP-5K.
Probably because certain historical events happened recently that make evoking the word pandemic a bit unironically problematic for a lot of people.
All right. So, yeah, the pitch here in the description is the klaxon of a containment breach alarm wakes a lone agent of the FBI's UIU division who finds themselves separated from their unit with no memory as to how they got to this defunct office space. Crow, the lead agent of the UIU operation, struggles to make contact. The worst case scenario has begun.
Interesting that it's focusing on the UIU rather than the Foundation. That's actually a neat gimmick.
Yeah, the Foundation are the bad guys in this game.
Ooh.
Yeah,
that is also interesting.
Yeah, obviously they're taking some liberties and stuff, which is fine because usually, SCP is like a public domain thing.
And there are like 5 different consistent
Continuities
to pull from. So yeah.
But yeah, I've kept an eye on this for some time. I've seen a few of their trailers, and I think it's cool that they are giving some light to the UIU here. Because
someone please do something with Marshall Carter and Dark. Marshall Carter and Dark are my favorite non-Foundation faction.
Oh, and for those who don't know what the UIU is, it is it's
the X-Files essentially.
Yeah. There's a video, I believe, by the Exploring series, or is it the Vogan, that talks about it.
I believe it's the Exploring series. I don't think the Vogan does faction videos, although maybe he started doing them. You should. I really like the Vogan's videos because the Vogan's videos are basically set in universe. As a researcher explains what everything means with regards to the various anomalies.
Right. But I really respect the work they're doing on this. Like I said, I've checked out like a lot of the videos they've done, like even the development logs, devlogs they've done, and they're really passionate about this. I mean, this game has been out for a while, and they're still upgrading it, still doing things. And I've seen people, people play the game. But yeah, it's pretty cool. I don't think, obviously, it's not a game I think you would play personally, Dalton. Because like I said, it's like a tactical first-person shooter.
Yeah, it's not that I begrudge anyone their first-person shooter SCP thing if they want that. It's just if I was gonna play a SCP-based game, I would want it to be more open world and more related to the actual lore and the factions than something like Containment Breach. Which again, not poo-pooing anyone who wants a
right. No, if I remember
Breach
correctly,
first-person shooter, but
if I remember correctly, the story is that the O5 Council and the SCP Foundation get corrupted or taken over by some entity. And they're basically being used. They're basically being used to end the world, and the UIU, I believe, some other groups are going in, like team up, and are going in to stop it. Obviously.
Honestly, I would just this isn't very distinguishable from the Foundation's usual behavior because let's be honest, the ethics committee basically just exists to tell them what they probably should do, and then they don't do it. So, as we have gone over, particularly around Halloween over the years, the Foundation are kind of self-destructive morons. who sabotage themselves at every conceivable turn.
Anyway, can everyone see it, by the way?
I can't. I will have to jump out and jump back in again.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Are we having technical difficulties again? The screen is black. I can't see anything at the moment. But that might also be because there's nothing to see. Brainstormer is once more having technical difficulties. Are you? Well, that okay. He was back for a second and then he was gone again.
Okay, I'm back. Hello?
Okay, huzzah.
Can you hear me?
Yes, technical difficulties
Okay.
aborted. Huzzah.
Yeah, as soon as I put you on, I literally got I got exited out of the studio, and it said my internet was having trouble. So I just tried again. Here I am. We're good.
Which, unironically, and again, this proves just how much Hesbin Hotel has been living rent free in my head. All I could think was the "Oops, I'm afraid you've lost your signal" bit.
From Stage Gone.
Huh?
From Stage Gone, the song.
Yes, from
Yeah.
State Gone. Yes.
All right. Okay. So, trailers. Okay, there we go. All right.
Banana pills. Because I do know that's an SCP. There are in fact banana pills. Which
Dragon Troll, can you hear me?
okay. He's joking with you.
Oh, okay.
But no, I think everyone can hear you.
Okay.
I can hear you at any rate, but banana
All right.
pills.
Yeah. I don't. No, it doesn't. It doesn't have. Okay. Yeah, it doesn't have what happens. Okay. I did turn it up, so hopefully you can. And yeah, it should share audio. Tell me if you can hear it.
Okay. Yes.
Okay. I want to point this out that this is an indie company that was making more or less a fan game. And this is a cinematic trailer for their game.
Yeah. And it looks cool. Like, aesthetically pleasing. Granted, we've only seen like half a frame, but it still looks aesthetically pleasing.
Well, also the tone of it and stuff, like the slow humming music there at the beginning and the gunfire and like setting like the atmosphere, what the fuck is going on.
Mm-hmm.
But also like the
Because
light, like again, I mean, I also want to point out, I mean, I know cinematic trailers are meant to look aesthetically pleasing and good and like entice you to want to play it or get the game. But and often those are like can be bad for like AAA games.
more effort goes into the cinematic trailer than goes into the actual game aesthetic, which is annoying.
Though they do have game trailer that will be spliced in this trailer because I have seen this trailer. I will be fully honest. I've seen it. That's why I wanted because I need to know if we want if I wanted us to cover this. So
Yeah, small point of praise for this and gripe for everyone else. This is what I mean, that being dark doesn't necessarily mean you have to be aesthetically boring. Because this is very dark, obviously. It almost has like Silent Hill meets Tim Burton vibes. And yet it looks very good and aesthetically pleasing all the while.
I don't know if I would. I mean, Silent Hill, sure, but I would also say I can't think of a war movie that depicts like to my mind, what kind of like war movie depicts like real like grittiness of like stuff, but
That's a good question.
like, and I'm gonna be specific because we have like the guys in like more paramilitary uniforms, right? Like paramilitary gear, some like more modern war films. And
I haven't seen enough war films. I mean, apart from Saving Private Ryan, which every bugger has seen, I haven't seen enough war films probably to say one way
but
or the
yeah,
other.
yeah, SCP has always been dark, but it's always been fucking weird.
Yeah, dark in a fantastical way, which you can do, Hollywood. Please remember this.
Yeah. All right.
Banana pills.
Banana pills.
This is UIU TOC. UIU, Tactical Operations Center.
Yeah, this is good. Like with the atmosphere and like I'm on edge, like edge of my seat here.
And they brought in the GOC. Everything is currently fucked. like as much as I give
TOC. No, TOC. Not GOC.
I was going to say I thought that was a reference to the GOC, and I was like, well,
TOC Tactical Operations Center.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah,
Because my first thought was, oh shit, they're bringing in the GOC as well. This could not be any worse.
Well, world's ending. What do you expect?
Because for as much as I give the Foundation shit for being self-sabotaging assholes, the GOC doesn't even try to, like, the GOC doesn't have a positive face to fail to live up to. The GOC are just straight up assholes, and fuck them entirely. They're like one step removed from the Chaos Insurgency, frankly.
Again, it all looks really good. Like it's weird. Weirdly enough, I'm getting okay. Does anyone remember those like Resident Evil 3D animation movies?
Yes, and
Yeah,
I
kind
can see
of.
where you're coming from here on
Yeah, it
that.
kind of
Yeah.
looks like that, and that's honestly kind of a compliment because it's like heightened reality, but it still looks like in the realms of
It's still very grimdark, but it's stylized grimdark.
yeah, even weird. I mean, I'm aware that it's just like an office building. And this guy in like tactical gear has. I'm just. Uh, I'm just recognizing that. Yeah, it looks. It's not too. What's the word I'm trying to like, figure out here?
Desaturated.
Yeah, it's colorful desaturation, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Again, it's grimdark, but it still manages to be stylized. Something I wish Hollywood would learn how to fucking do.
Yeah. All right. All right.
Banana pills.
Banana peels.
Entry team, this is Crow. Respond. To any agents that can hear me. Listen, if you can hear me, you need to disable area.
Yeah, this all looks fucking cool.
Hmm. I'm hoping we get other factions and not just the UIU.
To be fair, the fact that they're being shown forefront is respectable because
Is
they,
in and of itself a step in the right direction, yes. I do some of the factions of the SCP universe are really interesting.
banana peels.
Banana pills.
12 lockdown. Backup is waiting for your signal. Nothing. They're gone.
Oh, hey, it's Peanut.
Hmm.
Well, to be fair, they had to change up the design for the statue because I believe the creator who created like the original photo for that was used for SCP-173.
Yeah, he's butthurt about it, and butthurt that the SCP is actually more popular than his original art piece.
Yeah. I think by doing the UIU, they want an underdog.
I mean, yes, that is probably a point.
Yeah, because if
But
I
I
remember
wouldn't
correctly,
mind.
UIU isn't really taken seriously within the the
Nah, they're a joke. They are entirely a joke.
to be fair, they are completely underfunded, and never given like they're constantly kind of just out. They're fucked over just because yeah they're underfunded.
They're not the foundation, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, which
Same
funny enough,
same thing with GRU Division P, and I you could make an argument for the GOC, but again, the GOC are a bunch of cunts, so I don't particularly feel bad for the GOC.
well, what is the mission statement of the GOC?
Effectively destroy everything that is supernatural, and thereby is
I
where my fuck
to
the
be fair,
GOC comes in.
Dalton, you have a very yeah agreed, Dragon Troll. Uh, you have a very biased view of the supernatural.
I mean, yes, but I mean, not.
However, I was gonna say this. It's not that I don't share your thing, because personally, I think understanding the supernatural is a lot more important than destroying it. But I think given what list of SCPs that we're aware of,
Yeah, it's like 10 Lovecraftian world-ending things to every one actually positive thing, but
right.
still
So
it's still not worth getting rid of. It's not worth getting rid of all the good to
no, I
moderately
agree.
useful
Like
ones.
they're extremist. I agree. I don't like their extremism. I'm just
Yeah.
saying the idea of wanting to safeguard humanity, which is more or less what the UIU, the Foundation, like that
Yeah.
is their goal ultimately.
I get it, but the difference being the UIU are the plucky underdogs who just gosh darn it can't get the funding they need. The foundation are people with semi decent intentions who end up self sabotaging themselves into being assholes. The GOC, however, are just a bunch of cunts. That to me is the difference between the GOC and the Foundation and the UIU is the UIU wants to do better by humanity and the supernatural, but they don't have the resources to. The Foundation tries, but is often handicapped by their own stupidity, whereas the GOC are just cunts looking to be cunts,
Fair enough.
and they don't really have a positive. They don't really have a positive virtue to recommend them. Is the thing.
Yeah, fair enough. All right. Banana pills?
But banana peel.
For the record, that is the theme. I believe it is Code Gray is the title of it.
Mm-hmm.
Because yes, I've actually listened to the soundtrack. Funny enough, it is something I've used for a project of ours, like a soundtrack to listen to while I write.
Yeah, the thing is DT. Yeah, the thing is DT. I can buy that with the Scarlet Kings and the 682s and so on. But you're honestly telling me that the chair that all it wanted to do was help people who needed a place to sit down. You're honestly telling me that it was a good idea to take the chair through a wood chipper and turn it into a homicidal death thing rather than the helpful thing it wanted to be. You're telling me that was warranted just because it might drop the masquerade, so to speak. Yeah, no, fuck that.
Yeah. I also like how, like, for one thing, game footage doesn't look that far off from the cinematic trailer. There's a slight difference, obviously, with like the movements, because it's game, so they're a little more restrictive in terms of how they look like when they're moving. Yeah, it's clearly not mocapped, is what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
But the lighting, the textures and stuff, it's not. It doesn't look like they're two different things, is what I'm saying.
Okay, but in the process, they literally turned one of the beneficial SCPs into a homicidal fuck humanity SCP. And I don't fucking care. I'm not letting you nuke all the bad ones and the good ones indiscriminately. Either make a distinction between the bad ones and the good ones and nuke only the bad ones, or I'm gonna take the nuke button away from you. Because it's not worth getting rid of all of the supernatural just because some of the supernatural is dangerous.
Moving on.
Yeah.
Banana pills.
Banana pills.
So so for new anomalies, they have the chicken men, those chicken people things,
Mm.
and apparently a false door. What are those? That thing. The in D&D, they disguise themselves as treasure chest.
Mimic.
Yeah, like door mimic things. Which I'm not. I was aware somewhat because I remember the photos of those chicken creature things. But it shows that they're going deep diving into the SCP list and lore, so they can incorporate them. Which is how you know this is made by fans of SCP.
Yeah. It'd be nice if they left it open to use some of the beneficial ones to like arm yourself with. Like if Mr. Deeds was a if the Mr. Deeds bell was a like reward you could earn for one of the quests or something, that would be cool.
Guess we'll wait and see.
Banana pills.
Yeah, one sec. Actually, it also makes me curious. I don't know how they would fit in here because they don't strike me as like they would work in a first-person shooter. But the Serpent's Hand.
Yeah, I could. This is why if I was gonna finance a if I had $1 million and I could finance a SCP project, I would want an open world SCP type game where you could like pick a faction at the start of the game, and what faction you chose would depend on what sort of quest lines you could unlock and stuff.
Anyway, banana pills.
Banana pills.
It's cool, man. I got nothing to say. I'm just impressed by how much work has clearly been put into this.
Yeah.
Again, independent.
Yeah. And again, why the fuck can't AAA games with all the resources and money and backing behind them possible even come close to the awesomeness of like AA independently financed shit?
What about Helldivers 2? Does that count?
That's AA. That's not a AAA game.
Okay.
Which
All right.
Helldivers 2 is a good example of exactly what I mean. Independently produced shit that is at least up to the standards of AA games are somehow managing to kick the ass of AAA games with all the money and resources and backing behind them. Which might say something about how the gaming industry, like the Hollywood movie and TV industry, need to get their heads out of their asses and appeal to their fucking audiences, please.
So banana pills.
Banana pills.
I don't know why. But I don't know if anyone knows about this game. But GTFO. It's like a dark looter game.
I don't think I've heard of it. It sounds familiar, but I don't think I've heard of it.
Well, it's like a horror version. Basically, the idea is like your prisoner is being sent. It's like a more darker, grittier version of Lethal Company, I guess. It's the best way to say it.
Okay.
Sort of. Except you're going underground and other planets.
Neat.
Again, you'd have to look it up. But I kind of get vibes of SCP-5K. Like, I kind of get vibes of GTFO from this trailer. Just like the atmosphere, the fighting, the gunplay, stuff like that.
Which it just now occurred to me, and I'm an asshole for not thinking of this until now. Is there an SCP-5000? And are they gonna bring it into the scenario? Do you think?
It's like I said, I think this is loosely based on it. There are videos on it. I have not watched it myself because it apparently is like a whole storyline.
I am going to have to look it up later. Because now I'm curious, which of the many possible apocalypses has the Foundation got themselves into this time?
It's called SCP-5000-Y.
Oh. I think I have heard of that one. I may have watched the video already.
Y as in WHY, not...
Yes, I know. Y as in the question.
Yeah. Anyway, shall we?
Banana pills.
Banana pills.
We're moving into the target zone. Still no word from the base. The storm is making communications difficult. We'll need to make direct contact. Once we determine what happened to the people at the facility, we can patch it via general array.
NS recruited to Team 3225. Can you still hear us?
Wonder who it is. Who's talking right now? Shall we see? Banana pills.
Who knows? Banana pills.
Incoming transmission.
Copy. Patch it through.
UIU to GOC operatives. Uploading real-time data with you from surviving agents within the SCP Foundation's Area 12. The O5 Council is no longer communicating. We are preparing for fault line protocols.
Did you catch that?
Fault line protocols?
No. Something. Well, you'll see. Shall we?
Banana pills.
Banana pills.
We understand, UIU.
Hold the light.
And we shall watch the dark. Good to be on the same team.
UIU and GOC are working together to stop the Foundation from ending the world.
And I reiterate my statement of you know things are bad when you start working with the cunts.
But hold the light and we will watch darkness is a pretty cold ass fucking line. I'm not gonna lie.
It is good. It is a good line. Still want to see every single one of the GOC motherfuckers in the gulag, but it is a good line.
Yeah. Alright, I think that's pretty much it. This looks pretty cool, man. I mean, I know I'm not gonna really play it because I don't think I could. It would probably be on like a computer, and I'm more of a controller guy.
It's probably a PC game, and your computer came out of the infinite bag of potatoes.
Well, that, and also I'm more used to playing a controller, so.
Which, by the way, did you see that one comic that somebody did? It's basically the same idea as the bag of holding potatoes, except it's a bucket of movie theater popcorn that's infinite.
Now I want fucking popcorn. Fuck you.
I'm sorry, but I saw that and my immediate thought was somebody borrowed this from the bag of holding potatoes. But this would be better because it's movie theater popcorn, and movie theater popcorn is one of the best things.
All right. So I guess we are going to call it there, folks. So with that, I want to say goodbye, adios, aloha, avideze, sayonara, peace, cheers, and
Fuck the GOC and fuck off.